What should you do when you're skinny fat? So first of all, let's clarify what skinny fat actually means, since I think that a lot of people often classify themselves as being skinny fat, but in reality they're either on the fatter side or on the skinnier side, and what I'm actually talking about here is right in the middle. So what I classify as skinny fat is someone who is on the skinny side but still has a relatively high body fat percentage. You don't look overweight, but you're severely lacking the amount of muscle mass that you need in order to look in shape. And most of the time, the people who fall into this category are in a constant battle between should I be bulking to gain more muscle mass or should I be cutting to lose the body fat. So in this video today, I'm going to be covering how to fix this whole skinny fat scenario and tell you exactly what to do step by step. Firstly, I would like to clarify that when you're trying to reverse this whole being skinny fat symptom, it's important to note that it's more important to focus on how much muscle mass compared to body fat you have on your body instead of chasing a goal weight. And just to give you guys a quick example, you could have one individual who is 15% body fat but also has a high amount of muscle mass. And you could have another individual who's also 15% body fat but falls into the skinny fat scenario, which means that the individual doesn't have a lot of muscle mass or severely lacks muscle mass. And those two bodies can look completely different. And that is simply because the ratio between muscle mass and body fat is more in favor of body fat and not of muscle mass, which is what you actually want. Because the biggest problem that skinny fat people have is that they lack the amount of muscle mass that they need in order to look in shape. So the number one thing that you're actually going to be prioritizing, which is also step number one, is follow a solid and proper resistance training program. Like I mentioned, the main problem that skinny fat people have is that they lack muscle mass. So obviously, in order to fix that, you need to build up the amount of muscle mass that you have on your body. Now I know that a lot of you are probably already resistance training, so if you're currently already lifting, you need to ask yourself 3 questions. Have you been making progress on your lifts? Have you been training consistently? And have you been training intense enough? And if you can say no to any of those 3 things, then you're probably going to be surprised with the things that you can still manage to do on a solid resistance training program. Simply just going to the gym is not going to cut it. Alright, you need to ensure that everything that you're doing in the gym is leading to you getting results, gaining muscle mass, even if your diet is not in check. Because like I mentioned, resistance training is going to be the basis of you getting closer to your goals. So when you're going to the gym, focus on getting stronger on your lifts and specifically your compound lifts. Right, your compound lifts, which are, for example, the bench press, a pull-up, a overhead press, a squat, a deadlift, those are going to be forming the basis of your physique and your strength. So by focusing on getting stronger on these movements, you're promoting progressive overload, which in turn will lead to a bigger stimulus to your muscles, which will mean that they will grow. Even just by going to the gym and stimulating your muscles, if you're falling into the beginner category, you are still going to be building some level of muscle mass. And that is simply because your muscles need to adapt to the stimulus that you're giving it. So if you're training, you're giving a stimulus to your muscles, and your muscles see it as the task or job to adapt to that stimulus so that they don't keep on getting the same muscle damage over and over again. Right? Your muscles don't like to be damaged, so it's their goal to repair the muscle damage and then build upon the muscle damage that you gave them, which is aka muscle growth, to not get that same level of pain again. And that is the whole principle behind resistance training as it is. And the reason that building muscle mass is so important is because A, it'll make your physique look a lot better, even at higher body fat percentages as I just covered, and B, because muscle mass has a higher metabolic rate compared to fat mass. So that simply means that the more muscle mass you carry on your body, the more calories your body will burn simply in rest, which is your basal metabolic rate. AKA building muscle mass increases your metabolism, which then in turn means that you can eat more calories while you're trying to lose body fat. Now, if you want to know even more on how to optimize your training in order to build the most amount of muscle mass possible and get into a better shape, I've made multiple videos on that on my channel, so I'll link those in the description so you can check it out and learn more about that. Now we're going to be moving on to nutrition, which is probably where the most question marks are at. Should you bulk? Should you cut? Or should you recomp? Now I'm gonna go on a roll here and say that you probably should not be bulking, right? The main reason for that is because your body fat percentage is already quite high if you're falling into the skinny fat category. And since bulking inevitably brings a little bit of body fat with it, you will probably run into the fact that you're not going to be staying motivated to keep on going to the gym and staying in a caloric surplus, aka a bulk. And since you're already at a pretty high body fat, gaining even more body fat, gaining even more weight, even though that as a beginner the majority of that will be muscle mass, will probably not improve your physique. And that is simply because if your body fat is already at the higher end, nutrient partitioning, which simply implies how all of the nutrients that you're taking into your body are being transported throughout your body, which you want to be in favor of muscle mass, will be a little bit out of whack, since if you have a higher body fat percentage, the nutrients are not going to be utilized properly for muscle recovery and growth. So bulking at first will probably not be your best bet. So should you then do a cutting phase? Well, that might work. Going on a cutting phase and being in a caloric deficit will obviously reduce your body fat percentage, which means that you will lose fat, which then defeats the problem of you going on a bulk first, since, well, like I said, nutrient partitioning will be a little bit out of whack and you will not run into the problem of being unmotivated since you're not seeing that fast progress. But the problem with cutting is that you're not going to be building muscle mass as efficiently as possible. And that is simply because you're not providing your body with enough nutrients and calories to grow muscle mass. So what should you do then? And this is actually where the recomposition phase will come into play. Body recomposition simply means that you're going to be gaining muscle mass and losing body fat at the same time. Now I know that this sounds like a lot of mumbo jumbo and it pretty much just sounds impossible, but it is possible in a few different scenarios. It is possible if you fall into the beginner category of lifting, which means you have been lifting for 0 up to 3 years. If you haven't been lifting for a long time, so for example if you had a break from training for a couple of months or a year or something, or if you have been training suboptimally, which simply means that you either haven't been training consistently or haven't been training intensely enough, or either a combination of those two. Now I know that this sounds too good to be true, but keep in mind this period will only work for a certain period of time. So once this beautiful fantasy period is over, you will have to decide between bulking and cutting if you want to continue your progress forward. One thing that you need to realize is that getting to your goal physique is going to require you to build a certain level of muscle mass and lose a certain level of body fat. And this is simply going to be taking some time. So you will probably need to cycle between bulking and cutting after recomping for at least a couple of times before you're getting to your goal physique. So to sum up this whole entire video into some general advice, first off, focus on following a proper resistance training program in which you prioritize weight training and put cardio on the second priority. If you're falling into the true skinny fat category and you're not just fat or not just skinny, then follow the recomposition phase for about 8 to 12 weeks first, which means that you will be cycling very small deficit days with some days that you'll be eating at maintenance calories. So it's not purely focusing on fat loss, you're more so focusing on increasing your performance in the gym, getting stronger on your lifts and making progress in your physique when it comes to muscle mass. So this in turn will probably lead to you maintaining your current level of body fat and increasing your level of muscle mass, which will improve your body composition for the better. Since, like I mentioned in the beginning of the video, you need to be focusing more on the ratio between your muscle mass and your body fat. And if your muscle mass goes up, your body fat stays the same, you will most likely improve your body composition since, well, more muscle mass means less body fat. Or you will at least look better at a high body fat percentage since you carry more muscle mass. After the 8 to 12 week recomp phase, you should probably go on a cut first. And that is simply because you will see faster results since fat is lost easier than muscle mass is built. So that will probably increase your level of motivation since you're seeing faster results. And because your body will get a little bit more efficient with partitioning your nutrition, because you simply have less body fat and more muscle mass. Now what I want you to keep in mind is that it's not the goal to end up shredded. Alright, being shredded requires you to have a certain level of muscle mass, which you obviously need to build up first. So the duration of your cutting phase should probably only be around 12 weeks, after which it is then the goal to build up your calories to a lean bulking phase. In the lean bulking phase, you will be at a caloric surplus, which means that you're actually feeding your body enough energy to promote muscle growth, and the gains that you then will be making will be a lot more visible since you had decreased your body fat percentage beforehand during the cutting phase. So again, it's not the goal to be shredded at first, so simply focus on building your physique first before going to the extreme. Now for the cutting phase, I recommend you to start off with a 500 calorie deficit from your maintenance calories, and then decreasing your calories by 100 after each fat loss plateau. For the deficit days on your recomposition phase, I recommend you to stick anywhere between a 150 calorie deficit up to a 250 calorie deficit, so that you're not actually in a serious cutting phase, and then cycling that between days where you're at maintenance in order to fuel your performance in the gym. And for the lean bulking phase, I recommend you to eat 200 to 300 calories above your maintenance to ensure that you're at a caloric surplus, providing your muscles with the necessary energy to grow. Alright, and that is all for this video, guys. I sincerely hope you all enjoyed. If you have any questions about this topic, please let me know in the comments down below and I will get back to you. If you enjoyed the video, please smash the like button because it truly helps out the channel grow. Comment down below and subscribe to the channel and turn post notifications on for so much more content coming really soon. I'm out, guys, and peace out. See you in the next one.